My next guests are Kathleen Porter-Magee and Joe Kafka. They're both from Partnership Schools. How you both doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
So tell me about Partnership Schools. What is it?
Sure. So Partnership Schools is a network of 7 Catholic elementary schools. We are operating those schools in Harlem and the South Bronx. We have 4 schools in Harlem and 3 in the South Bronx, and we serve 2,000 plus kids from 3-year-olds up to 8th grade.
Well, yeah, I have come from 2 parents who did 12 years of parochial school, so I'm very familiar. So tell me, how are parents dealing with the current crisis, especially since they now have to be very involved in their children's education?
Honestly, I think parents all over the place are handling it in very different ways. I think we are amazed by the resilience of the parents we serve. It's really amazing. So our schools in Harlem and the South Bronx, we serve students from two of the poorest congressional districts in the country. The median income of the students we serve is about $26,000 a year in like the most expensive city. And what's been really just humbling and amazing about their response to this pandemic is how resilient they are. And I know, Jill, you've gotten some letters and notes from parents that are really inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, our parents have been really grateful for the support we've been able to give them. And David, I think, in the middle of this pandemic, we had to figure out what we could do for those parents, because besides educating them, we have to support them in other ways as well. And so we really quickly made a few decisions that I think helped a lot. We decided we would waive tuition and fees for all our parents so that they didn't have to worry about paying tuition and paying for food and rent and other things. And we decided to keep everyone in the payroll so that no one was going to lose their job, even our hourly employees, like our cafeteria workers and our teachers' aides. And then lastly, we established a COVID-19 family relief fund for cash gifts that we're giving to families when they have a medical bill, when they can't pay their rent, when they've lost their job. And that's cash that we've raised around $900,000 to give that money to those parents so that they can feel supported and they can continue to do what they need to do for their families.
So ladies, I'm curious, one of the things that I thought of right when schools were no longer, having physical sessions is, does everyone have internet? Does everyone have a computer? How do you work that out, especially with the population that you're serving, when those are really not a given?
It is not a given. And there are a lot of our families that didn't have Wi-Fi or didn't have devices. So the first thing we did, and it was amazing. I mean, we had to adapt to, like everybody else, we had to adapt to this pandemic overnight. Our kids were in school on March 13th, and they were not in school again on March 15th. And so the first thing we did when we dismissed on March 13th was we sent a survey to all of our families to figure out what the kids were going to be dealing with at home. Did they have devices? If they have multiple kids, do they have multiple devices? Because obviously if we're sending work home and you have 3 kids and you have 1 computer, that's going to be very difficult to get everything you need to get done. So that's what we did first, was survey everybody to figure out what's happening at home. And then we redistributed. So we have devices obviously in each and every one of our schools. And so we gathered them all centrally. We figured out how many we had. We figured out who needed what. And we just fanned out and got everybody in our communities that needed one a device, whether a laptop or a Chromebook. And then we were able actually to go back a second time. The first phase was, do you have a device? If not, we'll give you one. The second phase was, okay, now if you have multiple children, need multiple devices, can we get you them? So that was absolutely one of the first things that we had to deal with. And fortunately, some of the internet providers in the cities have also adapted to make sure that everybody in the city has some access to Wi-Fi and to the internet. I think the other thing I would say, though, when we thought about reimagining what school would look like in a world where we can't be with our students every day, we wanted to find a balance between technology and actually paper and pencil. Because while it was important and we're going to have to use technology and we're going to have to leverage it, we didn't want our kids sitting on the screen all the time. We wanted them still interacting with books. We wanted them still writing, particularly because we serve younger kids. The fine motor still matters. Writing out your thoughts is still important. And so we tried to strike that balance. And I remember early on, I actually joked with the principals, because I think we've all seen those viral videos of parents who are pulling their hair out in this.
Yes.
And I said, let's just please, whatever we do, let's not do something that drives a parent so crazy they get a viral video. And I think that finding a balance between screens and paper was a big part of that.
Jill, I have a question for you. You know, a lot of times educational choice is a big deal, especially in places like the Bronx, where, you know, private schools are seen as a drain on public schools. You guys have handled this in a different way, I imagine, than public schools. Why is educational choice important in your view?
Sure. I mean, I think we believe that, you know, a range of choices for parents makes sense because every parent may want their child in a different kind of environment. And we are a different type of school that should be part of that range of choices, especially in communities that may want a school that delivers, you know, value and character education and really are communities first. I mean, our schools, some of them have been in their neighborhoods for 150 plus years. You know, they're rooted in these communities. They're more like being part of a big family than being just part of an institutional school. And I think that's what we bring, and that's where Catholic schools right now are shining and being able to adapt and be nimble in this crisis, support their families. We have one parent, speaking of like devices, you know, one of the parents was so excited because the principal just literally went in her car and started, you know, giving out devices to families. And so I think the feeling of support and the type of schools that we represent is a choice and is especially more important than ever, we think, right now.
Well, ladies, you know, the thing about interviewing people from education is they always speak well because you're used to presenting to people. So Jill and Kathleen, thank you so much, and all the best to your families, your students, et cetera, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thanks so much, David.